Welcome back to the Couch to 5K series in which I go through every single run and talk about my experiences of how the run went. So today we are on week 5, run 2. So the count of all the runs in total, this will be run number 14. And let's just get straight into it. So it was a cold, dark morning. It was about 6 in the morning when I went for this run, and it was on a Monday. I went on this run perhaps about a week ago now, and yeah, I don't know what possessed me to run this early, but I just ended up waking up very early this morning, and I just decided I have the time, I have the energy, let's just go out and do it, you know. So I got out to warm up. The streets were empty. I had no thoughts. There was no distractions. It was quiet. It's the perfect setting to run, and I just went out and did it. So in terms of where I am in the program right now, I am in week 5, and this is when the real sort of increases start to happen. So if you've been following the program so far, weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4, it's very I wouldn't say bog standard, but it's very manageable if you're someone who's new to running and you've not sort of been tested in terms of running for a really long distance. I mean, the furthest you'll run within 4 weeks is about 5 minutes, which isn't that long when you start to get more experienced. Whereas in week 5, I've just learned that one of the runs you do is 20 minutes long, and you're not meant to stop throughout that entire block of 20 minutes. So that'll be something I'm looking forward to in one of the upcoming runs, but that's not what I'm doing today. So within week 5, this is where the serious changes take place, and in terms of each individual run, all of the structures will be a little bit different. So in my previous run, which will be run number 13, I think I ran for 3 blocks of 5 minutes, and in the run I did today, it was a little bit different. So each week is obviously comprised of three runs, but every single run within week 5 you're going to do is going to be a little bit different. So as I mentioned in run 1, you run for 15 minutes, and that's split up into 3 blocks of 5 minutes in which you run. And then in the run I did today, I did a warm up for 5 minutes. I then ran for 8 minutes, walked for 5 minutes, ran for eight, and then did a cool down of 5. And a picture will show you exactly what that looks like. And essentially, what this does is it kind of condenses the running you do in the previous one and just essentially puts it together and makes it a little bit longer. So instead of running 3 separate times, you're running twice now, but you're running for a little bit longer. And if you do 8 and 8, that makes 16 minutes of running. So compared to what you did in the previous one, 15 minutes, 5 times 3, compared to 8 times 2, which is 16, you're running for longer, and there's like less breaks in between. There's less like stop starting going on within the run. You're kind of just running for longer, having a break, and then running again, and then you're done. It's a lot more simplified, and I think once you get more experienced, I think that might actually be better because as you start to run, what I realize is I sort of get in the flow a little bit and realize that I can actually start to run for a little bit longer. And then all of a sudden, my block of running kind of ends. I'm like, oh, I can go back to walking now. But I kind of want to get in the flow state and stay running because I definitely feel like I can start to run for a bit longer now, given that I've built up the experience and the sort of, I've got the miles under my belt so that I can run for longer now. And in terms of the run today being 16 minutes divided up into 2 blocks of 8, I didn't struggle. I was fairly competent. I was a little bit apprehensive with the first one in terms of my first block for 8 minutes. I got to around 6 minutes of running, and that's when my legs started to tire, but I just pushed through and didn't stop. I slowed my pace down a little bit and managed to get through it. And then I had a whole 5 minutes of rest, and I was like, oh, that's great. I got my time to sort of gather my thoughts together and then go ahead and push on to my next run of 8 minutes. And what I found was that I didn't struggle one bit. I was very competent. I was able to do it. There was no real resistance. Yes, the running block was longer, but I was able to manage. I'm capable. And I think this goes to show that if you put the effort in, and if you, trying to find the right word, if you remain consistent, as you start to challenge yourself more, you realize you're capable of so much more. That when you go to push yourself, you realize you're capable of more than you think. Like if you told me I'd be running for 16 minutes a few weeks ago, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have said, how am I going to achieve that? But I sort of had this blind faith, like I know I'm going to get there. I just need to go through all the trials and tribulations first, and then I'll be able to make great strides of progress and just run for longer. So even though the running blocks are starting to get a little bit longer, if given the body of work you've hopefully been doing throughout the program, this shouldn't be much of a challenge. Obviously, running for 16 minutes is obviously going to be a challenge, but if you've been putting in the work, it shouldn't be as hard as you think. I did think it was going to be quite tough, and I kind of breezed through it, and I think it's a testament to show that if you put in the hard work, put in the hours, you're capable of anything. And I certainly am, because I have put in the runs. I've done, how many runs has it been? 13, including today being number 14. And I've already achieved this much so far, and I've still got a way to go. But I can, hand on heart, say that I am making good progress, and I hope that progress ends up continuing furthermore, all the way up until the end of the program when I'm able to run 5k hopefully. And one thing I learned in the program is that the running gets simplified as you make progress, and I think that's quite helpful. Instead of having this sort of stop-starty sort of run where you run for a little bit, then walk, run, and walk, you, what happens is you just run for extended blocks, and then you'll have like a short rest break. But hopefully, as you progress through the program, you get to a stage where I'm comfortable running for X amount of time now. I don't need to really rest. I can sort of jog on and sort of stay in that flow state. And hopefully, what should happen is you're so comfortable with running, you kind of forget that the program, or not forget the program's there, but you kind of forget like you're following a structure. You're kind of just running um, for the sake of running. Like you're just out there and you're running, and you're not giving it too much thought. You're just running and not being too worried about times, pace, or anything like that. So, one thing I mentioned in my previous run was that towards the mid to latter end of the run, I started to experience some lower back pain, and I'm not sure what the cause of this was. And I did a little bit of research to find out that it's likely down to a combination of fatigue and poor running form, in addition to weak muscle groups that help your body to run, being your hip flexors. So you may have noticed in my previous run, I mentioned that I would like do a little bit of research and find out what I can do to sort of aid and just help this pain, because I want to be able to run pain free. If you're running and you're experiencing pain, something's obviously not right, so you should address it, and that's what I did. I found a couple of hip flexor exercises on YouTube, I think, and I just started implementing a few of them. I think it's about two, and I just did a couple sets of those. I think I did it on 2 different times before I did this run, and it really helped. I didn't really feel my back starting to tighten or feel that pain anymore. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to remain consistent with training my hip flexors and maybe doing it about once a week, just to make sure that muscle is strong enough so that my running form doesn't sort of go out the window over time as I start to get fatigued as I progress on through my runs. And what I want to say is, if you're someone who's experiencing these kind of pain sensations, train your hip flexors, train them. Especially if you're someone who's experiencing lower back pain, I have started to train my hip flexors and I've just noticed a real difference. So if you're someone who's perhaps just starting out, or if someone who's experiencing lower back pain and you're not sure how to address it, hip flexors, train them. Don't stretch them, train them. The same way you would with any other muscle, like you're doing a bicep curl or maybe you're doing a bench press. You do that in the same way. Stretching will not fix your problem. Stretching will only relieve tension and stress on the muscle. It will not strengthen it. Stretching is something you do after long exercise and you just want to relieve the tension and pain in your muscles. Strengthening a muscle is putting it through pain so it can get stronger and be capable of more the next time round. So yes, I took the time to um, strengthen these hip flexors, and I was able to run pain free. So it's almost a non-negotiable. If you have a spare 15 minutes, take the time to train them because it made a real difference. I was able to run pain free, and I feel like it was one of my best runs so far. I was able to run for 60 minutes pain free, and it was very enjoyable as well. So always take the measures to look after your body and ensure you're doing everything you can to take care of it, and ensure that if you notice any red flags on your runs, make sure you address them there and then before they get worse. And the run itself was easier than my previous one, in which I ran for a less amount of time. And training my hip flexors made all the difference. So I'm going to remain consistent with that and keep you posted on how my runs in the future start to go with me sort of implementing this in now. But I hope this ends up being a learning curve to be that if you start to experience any problems, learn about them and then look to address them as soon as you can, because my runs felt so much better after training these hip flexors, and maybe perhaps there's more things I can do. But if I experience any more problems, I'm going to try and be open and honest about them as I can, because obviously I want to keep this as like raw and authentic as possible. So yeah, that's what I've been doing so far, and this run went particularly great. So upon reflection, what I'd say is I ran at a controlled pace, and I put a lot more focus into my breathing this time round. And what I want to say here is that yes, I was able to run for longer, but I focused on my breathing, taking 2 steps, deep breath in, 2 steps again, breathing out. And controlling your breathing really helps with your running, even though on my runs I don't really get out of breath because I feel like I have built up my cardio to a point where I'm not out of breath and completely dying at the end of runs, but maintaining your breathing is still important because it ensures your body is sort of ticking along in all the right places. And a controlled pace is super, super important. You do not need to worry about speed if you're someone who's just got into running. That should not even be at the forefront of your mind. Your only thoughts should be, am I making good progress each week? What is there anything I can improve? Those should be like your only kind of thoughts right now. If you're making good amounts of progress each week, then that's all good. Just to wrap things up, I will throw in a quick screenshot from Strava, and I'll see you in the next run.